Some model guidance here in the Western Pacific continues to scream for a strong tropical system and potentially a typhoon forming up sometime between the 19th over towards the 20th of July. Now, this right here I'm showing you is just one particular model run. That was the GFS, and since then the models have been backing off of it just a bit. Do remember the long range outlooks, there's definitely a lot of variability and potential for change. But what I can tell you, and as you can see right here from Pagasa, is that there is that increased risk of something developing at the very least in the Philippine Sea. And if that does take place, it is likely going to enhance that habagat, the heavy rainfall out here across the Philippines. You can even see here through the second week of July, heavy rainfall from Palawan, across Visayas, and eventually as we go ahead into the third week of July, this is all going to lift off towards north, increasing rainfall for the west coast of Luzon as well. I'm meteorologist Robert Spetta, always tracking these storm systems out here for you in the Western Pacific, and we have a very active setup at this time with multiple tropical systems. Of course, Invest 94W, which I was just talking about here, that's what's being indicated on the models due east of Mindanao pretty much. We have our tropical storm 06W, still not named by JMA, so it doesn't have a name, but it's there. And then we also have, well, basically this area of convection out here just along the west coast of Kyushu. Now, the good news with all these storm systems, and if you've watched my last few updates, you would know it spreads out the energy. You get a lot of shear interacting with each other, and it's kind of misleading when people say, oh, you got like 4 storms. What if they combine and create a big storm? Usually that's not the case, because typhoons have to have that tight low-level center. Think of like a cliff face. So if you have basically a canyon with cliff faces, if you fall off of that, it's gonna hurt. It'll be this really quick fall. That's a typhoon. When you have 5 storms, you think of just basically a broad valley of low pressure. This broad valley over a wide area, and yeah, it looks scary. And, you know, water can accumulate, and you're gonna have like swamps down below and everything, but you're not gonna have a cliff face with damaging winds and things like that. I think that's a good metaphor to explain this. Now, despite that, we do still have our tropical storm here, 06W, located basically just near Iwo Jima, lifting towards the north, and is expected to just stay east of mainland Japan, all thanks to this trough. You can see that trough right in here dipping. So here we go. We got our storm right there, low level center. Now that's going to hook it and allow it to kind of turn off towards north, and that would keep the right side, the worst side of this, just offshore. And in fact, let's jump over to our satellite imagery here, a little bit of closer view on this area, and let's loop through and I'll show you what I'm talking about, and then I'm going to get to that inflow for the Philippines, like in Okinawa. You see here and there, big topic. First, I want to touch in on our current active tropical system, because that's still looking out a little ways. And you can see here our guidance showing our storm system edging off towards north. It just makes that right. It just clips Chiba Prefecture, maybe over towards Tohoku, but still, we're going to see wrap around with gusty conditions out there in parts of Tohoku, and combined with another system that's now impacting Kyushu, you're going to see basically this prolonged inflow Monday, Tuesday, over towards Wednesday, a heavy rainfall across the southern coast of Japan, including over towards Tokyo and the Kanto Plain. It's going to be messy for several days out here, with that threat of some localized flooding, maybe trains being delayed, things like that. I mean, we just saw that in Yoyogi Koen the other day, the flooding. So I say Yoyogi Koen, Yoyogi Eki Station, Yogi Station versus Yogi Park, same area. I used to go through all the time. I mix those up. Anyways, yeah, and you can see that inflow and how those rain totals pile up right in there across parts of the Kii Peninsula over towards Shikoku, the Kinki region, all of those on the southern coast of Japan. So heavy rain in the forecast. Meanwhile, we of course are going to continue to monitor this area, and let's look at some of our guidance. And you can see here above me, the increased chance of something tropical developing is still up there according to Pagasa, and below me it was what the GFS has been showing with this area by about the 20th, right there near Okinawa or the southern Japanese islands. But even if it lifts towards the north, and I don't expect this to make a hard left turn towards the Philippines, but as it moves towards the north, well, I say that now, but yeah, the ECMWF does kind of edge it further off here towards the west. I think it's going to take more of a path like this, but Yeah, still going to be increasing. I think the big topic with this is that increasing of that river of moisture across parts of its size and eventually could lift off towards the north here. And you can see that here set up with the total rainfall accumulation outlook with the ECMWF, just 400 millimeters of total precip in spots, really for size, already starting here on Monday over towards Tuesday. That includes Tacloban, Cebu, Rojas, Bacolod, Iloilo, out towards Palawan, all looking at that increase in precip. Now, let's talk about some of the guidance here in the long range, all right? Let's break this down. We're going to switch over to the ECMWF. All right, here we go. So this is the ECMWF, the 18th and the 19th, and that does show that low kind of skirting over towards the Luzon Strait. Then, zoom this out, GFS at the same time period, see how it kind of edges that towards the southern Japanese islands, right like that. Almost get a secondary trough towards the east that edges it further north. Now you see this has changed up a little bit more of a westerly track. Thing is, the long-range GFS has not been good so far this season. So when you see these big storms, they're almost like phantom storms. It really wants to develop, and the GFS has been wanting to just demolish Okinawa for a few months. It feels like it's kicking out a storm every few weeks. So I would lean more towards what the ECMWF is saying, to be quite frank and honest. Now, it is scary for Okinawa, and I get it. If you see these models, you're probably going, hold the phone, but just keep in mind that this is still a long range outlook, and there's definitely a variability and a potential for change here in our forecast. And that's kind of what the graphic in the bottom right of this you can see on my social medias. I've posted on this as well. So just make sure you stop by and check that out if you're curious. But I do believe if we go back to the GFS here, even if that storm moves towards the north, and for our friends in the Philippines, you really are, in any case, enhancing that monsoonal flow, the hanging Habagat, really kicking in across the Indochina Peninsula in the west coast of the Philippines, for sure is going to see that increase in the rainfall out here with that just inflow kicking in here as well. And in fact, let's just take a look at this graphic here. That is the rainfall accumulations via the ECMWF from the 16th over to the 20th, and you can see just the entire west coast of the Philippines just piling up with that moisture inflow. So of course I'm going to do my best to keep you posted on what's going on out here with this, and if you have any questions or anything like that, I would like to hear from you. Make sure you check out our Patreon, link is down below. And of course, number one thing, as always, friends, is definitely stay safe out there, okay? Continue to monitor this.